All right. Hello. I am Hurinfan, and I'm joined today by Little Red Book
Hello.
and Ashaman.
Hey guys,
And today we're talking about We Free Men by Terry Pratchett.
that's
So-
Sir Terry Pratchett to you.
Terry Pratchett,
Yes,
sorry.
exactly.
The late Sir Terry Pratchett. We're going to have a very brief non-spoiler section, then go full spoilers. Let me give you a little introduction to the book in case you don't know what it is. So We Free Men by Sir Terry Pratchett is the first book of the Tiffany Aching series. It's something of a continuation of the Witches Discworld series, but can also be read as a standalone, just like nearly all Discworld books. Tiffany Aching is the only YA book series in Discworld. Pratchett is most well known for Discworld and his collaborative work with Neil Gaiman on Good Omens. Pratchett was a badass, and he is missed. So should we get our first non-spoiler thoughts out of the way?
Yes.
Ashman, you go first.
Yeah, this is the first Discworld book I've read in a long time, and it really felt good to be back reading Sir Terry Pratchett. The first couple pages, I was very hesitant, but then there was an incident with teachers, and that was just like, okay, this is indeed a Discworld novel. I like Terry not just because his books are always really funny, but there's also like a deep undercurrent of anger, and I just find that it's not like anger directed at, it's anger used well, let's say.
He has a very dark humor.
Yes, and he does not like stupidness or bigotry or anything like that. And he really gets angry that humans are like that.
He doesn't suffer fools, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
This book has a lot of heart. Tiffany is an excellent character. I would definitely recommend this to anybody who has children, and quite a few that don't.
Great, thank you for sharing, Ash. Yeah, this is your first time reading, right?
Reading this book, yes.
So I read it for the second time, and I will just mirror everything that Ash said. I thought it was fantastic. I like how much heart is in the book. I think Tiffany's a fantastic character. She's one of my favorites in the Discworld series. I will say I think it's a little less funny than a lot of the other books.
Mm-hmm.
But just a small thing. Yeah, his anger at injustice comes out pretty clearly in this, and the Knack McFeagles are wonderful, wonderful creatures. Red?
So this is my third time. I read it once by myself, and then when the kids got a little older, I read an illuminated version of it. So there was little blue footprints all over the pages and frequent illustrations. Not every page, but and I want to say they were like 8, 7 when I read it to them. And then I read it, of course, just now. This book holds a very special place in my heart because it was one of the first grown-up-ish books I read with my kids. I find it hilarious. I would say I have some problems with it, some very serious problems with it, but I laughed every third page. And the one main problem I have with it, the one minor problem, but is part of the Discworld aesthetic, is it has only one footnote, and it's at the very end of the book. And Discworld, I just love they're one of my favorite things.
More than that.
No, my digital copy only has one.
Oh.
Mine has a few, but they're definitely a lot more sparse than the other ones. I agree. And Discworld is awesome for its footnotes. Yeah,
I agree.
I might be wrong. I could go back and look through. My digital book, I only read the last half while I was listening. So
it felt like I there was like a maybe 4 that I saw.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I found 3 in the first 25 pages, just on a cursory glance. But
Okay.
not very many.
Right. Normally they're like every other page.
Sometimes many.
Tiffany, also, not just a great female character, but a character that, like, if you're reading it with a kid, like, I think most kids who are into reading and stuff would just be like, yeah, Tiffany's awesome. I want to be like her. Which I found I really like, because I like aspiring to characters regardless of their gender.
And so I'm going to say something that's going to sound kind of mean.
Uh-huh.
I have a younger sister. And the hostility between, and we did not get along as children. We get along okay now, but we're never going to be best friends. I really identified with a lot of the resentfulness she had towards, well, all her siblings, but I also identified with that's mine. You can't mess with it.
Yes.
And that the tension in her relationship, she's like, it's not that I would never say I didn't. I've always loved my sister. We didn't get along. But she's like, you know what? It's just mine. You can't mess with it. And I had several situations in the schoolyard, so to speak, where I was like, no, you can't do that. I can pick on her, but you can't.
Yeah. I hear sisters are especially bad.
Oh yeah.
But
We're terrible.
there's a lot of the same dynamic with brothers. Me and my the brother who's just 3 years older than me, we would beat the tar out of each other at home. But there's always this kind of like an unspoken agreement that we would just stick up for each other if anyone else tried to mess with us, because they're not part of the family.
Right.
I don't get to do that.
Yeah.
I have a sister, and it's the same between us, especially when we were kids. Okay, so shall we move on to spoiler talk?
I guess so.
Sure.
Yes.
Tiffany's great. You want to talk about Tiffany?
What about Tiffany?
I love. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so I love how practical she is, and she's just like, a task needs to be done, and this is how I'm going to accomplish it. But I know we're all going to gush about Tiffany, so I want to get this out of the way. There is no way she's 9. And I think she's 9 in the book. She might be 12, but either way, she's neither 9 nor 12. Terry does a very bad job of writing a young person, and like I said, I love this book. It has a special place in my heart, but this is a thing that is so glaring about the book, and it drives me crazy because I've spent a lot of time with kids that age, and they are not like Tiffany. And I don't care how smart or extraordinary you are.
I have not spent a lot of time around children, so I'll just defer to your opinion here, because I have no idea.
Little Book is definitely our child expert, considering she has 2.
Yeah.
And I've taught Sunday school and been a youth group leader. I've spent a lot of time around kids.
Something I love about Tiffany is the fact that she read the dictionary from front to cover, and she doesn't know how to pronounce words. And
Yes.
she loves to use the correct word for things, and she mispronounces it. It's so funny.
I really liked this is what I was referencing earlier, the scene with the zoology teacher. She was like, I want to learn zoology. He's like, that's a big word, isn't it? No, but patronizing is.
Zoology is really quite short.
That was the exchange that sold me.
So Tiffany suffers from the same fear I have. The first time I said the word ennui, I embarrassed myself horribly because I'd only ever, I don't even remember how I said it. I just remember because there are a lot of words I've read and I've never pronounced, and I really identify with that.
Mm-hmm.
All have, at least readers have.
Yeah.
I also love the reason she gives for wanting to become a witch, and she told the story of the. I teared up listening to the story of the old lady who was called a witch, and she died looking for help.
Oh.
She asked, "Why do you want to become a witch?" She said, "So that it never happens again." I'm like, oh, Tiffany, you're so precious.
I think that was the angriest the book got.
Yeah.
They got together. Didn't they kill her, or did she just die from exposure?
She just died from exposure.
Yeah. Like everyone ignored her, and then they went into her house and burned all her books.
So angry.
And Tiffany went in afterwards, and she measured the size of her stove, and she said, "There's no way." Like, Tiffany's smart. She's just so much smarter than everybody else.
I do like how when she bonked Jenny Greenteeth, she went and measured her dinner plates.
Just so she would know how big they are. Why doesn't it just say it's 9 inches long?
So the other thing I really like about her is just she is a very self-reflecting person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the thing that brought this most to my attention was she finds this beautiful shepherdess porcelain figure, and she gives it to her grandmother, and her grandmother's reaction kind of startled her, and she thinks, I've just insulted my grandmother by giving her this statue. She thinks that this is what I think a shepherd should be, or shepherdess.
Well,
and this is where
Remember, Granny Aching has never heard of a shepherdess.
Okay, true. So this is the part of the book where I cried at the very end when Granny Aching shows up. She's dressed in the blue dress, and because I could see why a child would react the way that Tiffany does, but when I read that as an adult, I'm like, no, she's just really touched. She's like, oh, you see me as this beautiful thing, whereas not as an insult but as a compliment. Does that make sense? And then
Yeah.
but Granny Aching is still wearing her old boots.
Still wearing old boots. See,
Big
that
boots.
just flew over my head. I'm not good with unspoken gestures
Nuance?
like that. Yeah, no. I need these things explained to me, and I'm glad that you just did.
So anyway, that's the part where I cried.
I think she is the perfect witch, with considering what we've learned about the witches in Discworld up to this point, and she personifies them very well. And I really like the story, how it's told, partially through flashbacks of her remembering her grandmother.
Mm.
It was her grandmother or great grandmother, or it was just Granny
Grandmother.
Aching, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really got the
Who
sense
is-
that Terry Pratchett loved his grandmother from this.
I think that's probably true. I hadn't thought about it that way. I like the way she thinks around corners and in odd ways, and that's how she solves problems. And that she's willing to, you know how sometimes when you turn, it's like the vase picture. It's like, is it two faces or is it a vase?
Yeah.
That's how she thinks, and that's how she solves by doing it that way.
Yeah, I also really like that, and I'm not going to say that I'm good at that specifically, but I think most people who spent time around me would agree that I'm at least a little weird. So I have a yeah. My perspective is naturally just different from other people's. So a lot of time I'm able to solve problems that other people aren't able to solve, and unable to solve problems other people are able to solve because, just the perspective is different, and that can make things easier or harder.
Right. Oh, can we go back to the teachers real quick?
Yes.
No.
So, Kieran, one of my favorite teacher signs was the grammar teacher, and he's like, I before E sorted out.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, and we've all learned I before E except after C.
And
So-
all the exceptions. God.
So
There are more
wait,
exceptions than there are rules.
so listen. So then I also learned, and I found out a lot of people didn't learn this, except for sounding like A as a neighbor or way. Did you guys learn that?
I think I heard that once or twice.
Okay. So then I had an English teacher in junior high school, when I was a junior in high school, not in junior high school. And he taught me a sentence that pretty much has all the exceptions to those two rules. And I found out nobody I know knows this except people I went to high school with.
Enlighten
And
us.
that is,
Enlighten us.
neither leisured foreigner seized the weird heights of protein by slight or forfeit.
Yeah, that does not ring any bells.
And I actually, when I first joined the Discord, put a poll up on that. I was like, has anybody else heard this? And like nobody had. I was like, okay. So there you go, guys. I've educated you.
Yeah, it's a wonderful mnemonic.
And I sorted out for all you English people with our weird spellings.
Since we're on the subject of the teacher signs, I really like the juxtaposition between the geography teacher and the spelling and grammar teacher, because it's actually it's spelled Jograffy, and everything is misspelled. And then of course the punctuation and spelling teacher, everything is very beautifully written, and it's very correct.
I just like the entire premise of teachers traveling through the land like buskers, making a living off of just like people coming in for one lesson.
Well, that'll cost you an egg.
It makes sense for the area they live in, right?
Sort of, yeah. I find it somewhat dubious that any parent, who is ignorant and proud of it, which is a lot of people back then, would send their children off, which is sacrificing like a day of work and also some of their hard-earned produce to learn about geography or spelling.
It kind of seems like everybody, it's not a priority, but nobody scorns knowledge. It's
In
just
in Discworld, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
in Discworld. I'm not. I mean, I think I have of my grandparents on my dad's side. My grandfather's has one sibling that graduated from high school,
Damn.
and everyone else left at the 8th grade. I mean, but part of it was the Great Depression. They were living in a dust bowl, like literally. I remember reading this article about the tractor and its invention and how it revolutionized the farming industry so much that people could actually afford. Like, it wasn't even just a matter of being ignorant and proud of it. It was like literally they could finally afford to send their children to school.
That's also true, yeah. Um, like I imagine if they didn't like need to spend their entire lives working tending the farm, then a lot more would have been educated. And wow, that is exactly what happened. Because once we invented labor-saving techniques, everyone got to go to school.
Yeah, exactly. And now nobody has to farm. I mean, like 5% of the population
Yeah,
is involved in it.
tiny amount of people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and obviously there's places in the world where that is not the case, but at least here in North America,
Yes.
So, we good talking about Tiffany?
we did.
All right. Should we move on to themes?
Sure.
I mean, we're not going to talk about the Macnac. I mean,
Sure,
they're
we can
kind
talk
of
about them
important.
first.
I mean, rob anybody. And Jock
fight
Jock
and
is
steal.
not as tall as Jock.
Oh my god, their
What
names.
nonsense.
We'll never be fooled again. The wee free men are awesome.
Not quite
Okay.
as tall as medium-sized Jock.
Right? So
Taller than small jock.
my absolute favorite thing about them is that their swords glow blue when a lawyer is present.
Yeah.
I was like, that is amazing. Like a little nod to Tolkien
Mhm.
and Sting, and
That is
also
funny.
to how nefarious lawyers are.
I
I
mean,
was thinking about Era the whole end of this book. Oh my god.
they're not wrong to be frightened, right?
No, they're not.
The end of the book was perfectly set up.
Oh, it was
The whole time you're thinking, why is the toad here?
Oh,
Well-
I saw that right away. Not right
Oh,
away,
really?
but as soon as
Oh.
he like made a lawyer thing, I was like, oh, he's a lawyer. This is gonna show up.
made a lawyer thing.
So occasionally he's like, oh, this. Like one time he's like, this ceiling is low. You could sue for damages.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That I am going to be honest, flew
Me too.
because I was not paying attention to that. But yeah, you're right.
I love when we meet the witches at the end, and they're like, "Oh no, the Mac McFeagles have a lawyer. What have you done?"
Right. And he's working pro bono because
At least
otherwise
at one
they're going
time.
to kill him.
And he says, "I didn't know we could have lawyers on our side."
Oh yes, you're entitled. You're entitled to a defense.
So they're basically Scottish leprechauns, Scottish blue leprechauns, right?
I'm not familiar with leprechauns enough
They're
to comment.
Pixies.
Leprechauns are very
So
small and mischievous.
They're the
And Irish.
opposite. They're the opposite of brownies. So brownies are little.
I'd never heard of brownies until this book.
Okay, so first of all, it's why the Girl Scouts have a group of Girl Scouts called brownies.
Really?
Yes, brownies are little house elves. So think the elves in the Taylor, right? So and also think what's his face from Harry Potter, where you give him clothes.
Hubby?
And they...
Okay. Well,
So what they
oh,
do
house
is
elves.
you put brownies, you put your bowl of milk out on your doorstep, and they come in and they do your chores for you. And I think American Gods has a brownie too, and if I remember correctly, but he's a big dude who fights. So the McFeagles are the opposite of brownies. Instead of coming in and helping you do your chores, they come drink your booze for milk. They come in and drink your booze and steal stuff.
Excellent.
They help out Tiffany.
They helped
Well,
out
they
Tiffany,
do
which is
because
odd.
she had. I mean,
She's
she
a hag.
married she's a
Granny
hag.
Aching.
Because of Granny Aching. Yeah.
I
You gotta
love
respect
the
the hags.
I love the character of Granny Aching. She never really shows up living in the book, except for through flashbacks. And she doesn't really say anything. But you just like get such a sense of who she was, and I had a lot of respect for her by the end. You know, just like one of those people that makes the world go round and keeps everyone, you know, together and the community safe, stuff like that.
Yeah, just even from Tiffany's perspective, you got a real sense of why she was so well respected in the community,
Hmm.
especially by the Baron. I love the way she treats the Baron. And Thunder and Lightning were awesome. Wish I had dogs like that.
Yep.
That is something that is the one thing I wanted more of is Thunder and Lightning. Like I wanted more of them in the story. Like I loved Granny Aching's stories and I love that, but I would like to have seen the dogs more integrated into the story than they were. They show up at the end as magic ghost dogs, and that stuff. And I don't know. That was
Chase
just
away
something
the
I
storm.
wanted more of.
Yeah, I can see that. I have one last thing on Granny Aching. So, thank you. She is a woman who basically stayed where she was her entire life. Never left the chalk. Never really got formal education. And it's easy to look down on those types of people. I think we have a bias against them nowadays. But I just really like how it's a very positive portrayal, and these people have like a very deep wisdom that applies to where they live generally.
They have a different type. I don't want to say type of knowledge. That sounds condescending. They just have a very different. Just because you have not been formally educated, like my grandfather, for example. I mean, my grandfather had a lot of ignorances too, but he also had a very deep understanding of a lot of things that I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the man owned his farm equipment, for example, from when I was a kid, was from the 50s, and he still kept it running. And when something broke, he knew how to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to crap. I shocked myself 3 times trying to change a freaking light switch, and it was a nightmare. I did get it changed, but my grandfather would not have had that issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we're all experts in what we know. Does that make sense? So Mr. Philosophy major, right? You're an expert. And I'm not saying that, like, I'm a theology major, okay?
Yeah.
So,
I am not a philosophy major, though.
Oh, you're a history
Just
major?
so the listeners are clear.
Right. Okay. The point, but you get my point, is that we're experts in what we know.
Absolutely.
And there is definitely a prejudice in our culture towards people who are blue collar type people. But we need those people to do things, and they are super smart at what they know. So maybe you should.
Yeah. Tough as nails.
Mechanics, they have a good mechanic has his own genius that I just forget about it. I don't know anything about that.
It takes all kinds.
Exactly.
And this is a kind that is really underappreciated nowadays.
Yeah. Okay, so thieving kinds now, right? More Mac vehicles.
I really like their culture and the Keldas, and how there's only one. They only have one woman, and she only has one daughter, and they have to move around, and they take some brothers with them because they can't respect otherwise and need protection. And I love the fact that they think that they might be, who am I to say? They think they're living in their own afterlife, like their own version of heaven, because there's booze and fighting, and I just think that's genius.
Mm-hmm.
Completely off topic. So when they're stuck in the dream, in Roland's dream, have you even talked about Roland? Guys, there's this character called Roland.
He's a wet blanket.
He got kidnapped a year before the story starts, blah, blah, blah. So they're in the Roland's dream, and they have these creatures. And they're like, and Tiffany's in this dream, and she's like, this isn't even real food. This is like where food goes. If it's been good. It's like food heaven, because the food is also pretty, and all my food is white and brown.
Yep.
That made me laugh.
I think she saw ice cream, too.
She did.
Ballroom scene reminded me of Labyrinth.
Ooh, it did. I didn't think about that, but that's true. Have you seen Labyrinth, Ash?
I have not.
Well, you should see that. It's David Bowie.
Yeah.
And his bulge.
I plan to see Labyrinth, and also Pan's Labyrinth.
Ooh, that's a good one.
May or may not be
really, really good.
At all related.
Pan's Labyrinth is a prequel?
No, it's not. What are you talking about? Yeah, no, David Bowie and the Muppets. It's great.
Not the Muppets, but
no,
Muppets.
Yeah, no, but Jim Henson worked on Labyrinth.
Well, it's not the Muppets. They are Muppets.
I know.
But, okay.
That's why I said, well.
I'm very particular about these things.
Okay, fine. I'm very particular about what's a portal fantasy, and this one is a portal fantasy. In fact,
this one is legitimately a portal fantasy. Yes. This is probably the one where we agree.
Narnia. I mean, I assume you
Yes,
agree on.
yes,
Okay.
of course.
I said it the other day as a joke, but you're right. This definitely is a portal fantasy.
In fact, multiple portals to multiple worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Hard mode, guys.
I
Yeah,
want to
that's
disagree with you just because
I
it
know.
feels
I
dirty.
know. Just because you could, because you're like that.
And now I'm a man of principle. I'll
Uh-huh.
stick with what I think most of the time,
Uh-huh.
unless it's really funny.
Unless you want to troll me.
Yeah, what I said, funny.
I like the role that we free men play in the story. They help Tiffany out, but they never solve her problems for her. Not really. And they need what she has, and she needs what they have. It's very complementary, and like neither one of them outshines the other, which I think is very important in a story like this. And they're also extremely unreliable.
It would be
I
very
appreciate
easy for a less capable author to have these bombastic, loud creatures be the center of the story and take
Mhm.
over, people's central thoughts. But Tiffany's just such a great character that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. And they make a great contrast. Tiffany, born leader. These guys, really good at following. Takes all types.
And they're unintentionally funny so often.
Mm-hmm. I liked the stupid one. I don't remember his name.
The stupid one.
Yes, the one that was particularly daft. Was it daft?
Daft.
Something?
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they use the words like daft and Ken. You just don't get that enough in
Yep.
fantasy. Well,
It was confusing. I could not read it. Every time I saw the word Ken, I had to exchange
it
it for
means
no
no.
in my.
Yeah.
I know, because they tell you. After that, literally, when I saw Ken, I had to change it to no in my mind before I could understand what they were saying.
Ever since I read Mole Speak in Redwall, everything else beyond that has been easy.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know where I picked up that kind of slang, but I loved it because I just don't get to read it enough, and it's so much
Mm-hmm.
like barren and all that stuff.
I
Or
like stories
barren.
written like I don't know, folksy, like Huck Finn.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I just enjoyed listening. Well, they said Crivens a bit too often. I'm gonna be,
Crivens!
which I'm sure
Is that a real word?
I don't think so. I think that is
Craven is. That's
Craven.
probably just a-
Crivens.
Yeah, but they don't use it like Craven.
They use it as a swear word, basically.
Yeah.
I think it might be just like a cravens, as in the people they're talking to, they're going to beat up. I think that might be the idea behind it.
It's kind of an ejaculation, not ejaculation.
Yes,
No,
but
it's an ejaculation.
it's an appropriate word, I think.
Oh dear Lord! I just had saying a word. Oh, I can't even remember the
It's
exact.
the correct word.
Is
It
it?
is a correct word.
It is
Yes.
a real word. I'm trying to remember but there's a grammatical, like wow. Is that
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
an
know.
ejaculation.
Cut this out, please. Just cut this all out.
Exclamation, maybe.
An exclamation. Yeah, it's not an exclamation, but there's a word for it.
There is.
It might be ejaculation.
I don't think it is.
So we have it here. The We for Men love it, ejaculating.
Probably do.
Oof. The way that she got out of the marriage was very, very fitting for a fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this definitely felt the most fairy tale-ish Discworld to me.
And they all are. Like all the ones in this series are like that.
Mm-hmm. I can believe that.
And that's one of the things I really love about them because, as I often said, I love myself a good fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
And like even having like fairy tale characters just randomly show up, or twists on fairy tale characters randomly show up in the book, just a lot of fun.
Hogfather was pretty fairy tale-y.
I have not read that one. Maybe that's what we should do for Christmas.
Maybe we should. I love Hogfather.
Okay.
I haven't read it, but I know the very famous lines Steph says from it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Very fond of them.
Death wasn't in this book, was he?
No?
No.
Oh my goodness.
Appearance.
Wow. How many Discworld books does Death not make an appearance?
A lot.
I thought it was most of them. He showed up.
The only one I've read with him in it is Mort, and I've read about 7 of them. Where's Deathwing? Not here. Not in this book. I'm trying to remember if he might show up in another one that I read. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, he's not in The Color of Magic, which is
He is in The
first
Color of
one.
Magic.
Is he?
Yeah,
I don't
believe so,
remember
yeah.
him being in that one.
I think he's in the Light Fantastic as well.
he is.
He made no impression on me. Or in
Well,
those
he's
books.
just in like one scene or something.
I've only read those books once. I just remember the traveling. I thought that was really cool.
The Traveling
luggage
Light
with
just
the-
was
The
fantastic.
feet. And when people say they don't like The Color of Magic, I thought it was fine. It's the first Discworld book I read.
I think it's clear
same.
that it was still Terry getting his feet under him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
he-
that's fair.
Yeah, he hadn't hit his stride yet.
And I think that he definitely has a very specific brand of humor that
Mhm.
either lands or it doesn't. And with me, it lands.
Yes, absolutely.
He
You have to
does
be a
lot
fan of British comedy. That's
Yes.
for sure.
Yes. And see, I grew up watching things like Keeping
Oh.
Up Appearances
Mm.
and
Monty Python?
Monty. Oh my God, the movie I've watched most of my life is Holy Grail.
There we go.
It's not even close. It's not even close.
Death has appeared in every Discworld novel with the exception of We Free Men and Snuff.
Oh,
Look at that.
look, I'm not even paying attention that close.
Not even
Apparently.
paying attention to the books. For shame.
Oh, you can kick me off now.
I think it was really appropriate not to have death in this one because the absence of Granny Aching and Tiffany's complete her struggle to come to terms with that on her own felt very. It was a big part of the novel. It felt very poignant, and I think Death showing up and kind of talking to her a bit about it would have weakened the arc a bit for me.
He doesn't need to say anything. I mean, just Granny Aching's death scene, and she sees death. I mean, she's a witch. She should see death anyway.
Yeah, maybe.
But Tiffany wasn't there when she died. So why would
She wasn't?
she? No,
She found her dead.
she found her, but she
I see.
yeah. So it's a very third person limited point of view. It's only from point of view. So it wouldn't have made sense for see death situation. And that's actually something interesting because a lot of Pratchett's books have multiple third person point of views not.
Speaking of her seeing things, I really like the concept of first sight and second thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Not doing anything magical there. You just see what's in front of you, which is actually a rare skill.
Have you read the other witch books?
No.
Oh,
I've read
you
all
should.
of yeah, you would like them. I've read all of Tiffany's books. I think I've read at least one other one by kids right now. But yeah, you would love the witches. They're fantastic.
They're incredibly practical.
Yeah, I definitely believe that.
They practice headology, getting into people's heads.
Yeah.
It's not real
Mhm.
magic. It's just getting into people's heads.
Although there is real magic too.
There is real magic, but I mean,
Mostly they don't do magic. Like what does Mystic say?
You learn magic and then you learn not to use it.
Yeah, exactly. You learn when not to use it, or else you learn not to use it. Yeah.
I prefer the witches to the wizards. I believe the wizards they don't do any magic because the amount of effort it takes to do magic is the same as it would do it without magic.
I don't know. I like the wizards.
Oh, they're funny, but I prefer the witches. Definitely, especially Rincewind. I actually like the people at the university more than Rincewind.
My favorite wizard character is the librarian who turned into a chimpanzee.
It's an orangutan.
Orangutan, whatever. He turned into a great ape or something, and he won't go back because he actually prefers it.
Yeah, so let's go back to second thoughts, and that's something I really wanted to talk about because I think it's talking about people challenging their own prejudices and the biases that they grew up with,
Mhm.
and most of the people in the chalk they just kind of go with what they're told that witches are evil and that they should be shunned and maybe throw rocks at their cats, and that's how the lady died. I wish I remembered her name. And Tiffany has second thoughts, which allows her to maybe have those first thoughts that aren't great, but challenge them in her second and third thoughts. And I think that's Terry telling us that that's really what we should do is challenge our own thoughts and prejudices and rethink things we're told.
Yeah. It should come as no surprise that I wholeheartedly endorse that position, seeing as how I'm so into philosophy. Socrates was Plato, through Socrates, famously says, "The unexamined life is not worth living." I think, everyone has a duty to challenge their own thinking, though it may be difficult.
So I'm gonna maybe First of all, I like the idea because we all have preconceived notions. I don't think it's necessarily just about challenging prejudices, and in the sense that we normally use the word, like normally we associate the word prejudice with bigotry.
Hmm.
That it's not just about that. It's also about, like, she thinks, oh, I'm trying to find any problems, like just taking a second look. Like, so one of the examples is the book of sheep ailments. And
All
Granny,
reliable.
yeah. And
You
so
can
it's
fix
one of,
everything with turpentine.
but what's funny about it is that, like, she's like, so Granny's given this book and she's not a learned person, but at the same time, she's like, no, actually, this doesn't work, guys. It's not a thing because I tried it and it didn't work. But so I'm not sure if I'm saying this well. In fact, I know I'm not saying it well. But so when we hear the word prejudice, we think bigotry. Second thoughts is not just about that. Second thoughts is about, we've done it this way, but maybe there's a better way. Or
Yeah.
we're looking at the problem, but maybe the problem isn't the right problem to look at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, prejudices as preconceived notions. I would say
Exactly.
is, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we think we're trying to solve this problem, but the actual problem we're trying to solve is this other problem.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what I got out of second thoughts. That was very
Just
rambly.
that's how I use prejudices, just as something that
Oh,
we've
okay.
been
I mean,
taught
I'm
before,
just
whether
saying
it's
the reason
bigotry or
why I
not.
wanted. No. The reason why I because that word is loaded, was
Yeah,
trying to
that's very
unload the
true.
word.
Yeah. But also, don't be bigoted.
Yeah. Well, yes, I'm not
Like,
endorsing
yes.
not endorsing bigotry. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it was not about bigotry.
You
Or
take a look at
just
your preconceived notions and you figure, yeah, maybe it was right to leave that witch to die. Jesus.
Oh, Jesus. Ash said that. I did not say that. Ash said it.
Does anybody have anything they want to bring up about We Free Men?
Yes, we haven't explored themes yet.
Okay.
Are we good to get onto those, or something about characters we want to talk about first? Maybe a quick shout out to the Queen. I liked her character. She was a good counterpoint to Tiffany. There we go.
Felt bad for her.
Yeah, it's just someone stuck in like old thinking patterns who never had second thoughts and just kind of exists in a very hedonistic way. Not ever giving people what they need, but only what they want, which of course is not sustainable or good.
Well, and she never has to, because she has such control, she never has to learn a better way. Like, that's part of it too. You kind of see that in Roland a little bit, and the Baron a little bit, kind of touches on that until they come up with with a force that can actually challenge them. They kind of make the world the way they want, and the Queen does that because she just can. And I think that is, I mean, I can't say that if I was in that position, I wouldn't be like that. I don't know. That kind of power is just really unhealthy to have.
Yeah. And growing up is a really painful process a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to, become disillusioned and then try and figure out how to put your worldview back together.
But
and so if you just can avoid that, you have to do that. Yeah.
If you want to become a grown up, I think at one point Tiffany says she's just a child that got old because she never had to do that. That's part of becoming an adult, is learning that thinking does not make it so. But the Queen lives in a world where thinking does make it so.
Yeah. And yeah, there are like lots of people in the real world who this happens to. I hear it's really big with actors, especially child actors, and their lives end up very sad a lot of the time because, they get famous before they even know who they are. And then they're surrounded by usually sycophants or people who want things out of them who'll just tell them what they want to hear. And then, sometimes they, get a hard dose of reality, but sometimes they just keep on going until they just die of a drug overdose or something like that.
I don't remember. It floats around in the ether. But like one of the most important vitamins you can give your children is vitamin no. Like, no, it's just not okay. You can't do that for whatever reason. Like, keeps them from falling off cliffs and eating only ice cream. And
it also. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and you see that in her little brother, who's always being given candy and never
He's
anything that
sticky.
really. He's
Oh,
sticky and
sticky.
he's not
Ugh.
nourished. That's the problem. He doesn't even speak, and I don't remember how old he is, but he's not 2, you know?
I think he's like of an indeterminate young child age.
Yes. But the
Yeah.
point is that he's never told no, nobody ever corrects him, and he never makes any progress. He's stuck in this permanent childhood.
Absolutely. And another good thing about being told no is if someone tells you no, now you gotta see how far you can push that.
It's an important
and
part of being a child.
It's
As an
important. Yeah. Teenagers are always pushing the line.
Toddlers are the same way. Toddlers are teenagers. They're the exact same personality type
Just a bit smaller.
and more violent. Toddlers are more violent than teenagers, generally.
Yeah, you would hope.
Toddlers would just kill you if they were big enough to do so.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
They
all
would- they
little
would-
kids are psychopaths.
Agreed. They would not
I
feel
mean,
bad about it afterwards until they had to eat and you had no food for them.
Well, the thing with toddlers and with the queen is that oh no, the thought's gone. I had something brilliant to say, guys. It was going to be brilliant. If it comes
I'll
back,
just
I'll say
kind of imagine something smart in my head and then describe that to you.
Listeners, we've lost some audio, but let it be known that Little Red Book just said something so amazing that we can't repeat it.
Yeah, you really had to be there in the moment. Yeah, so this book actually has a few sneaky themes. Like growing up is a big one. Learning to cope with loss, which also kind of intertwines with growing up. Turpentine, yes.
That's a very deep theme.
Don't get stuck in your dreams. Actually go out and do things. And there's one more, right? At least one more. I can't remember right now. It was the first one I thought of, though.
Now Ash is being incredibly brilliant, but we lost the audio.
Oh,
Sorry.
well. Yeah, there's nothing special about that, though.
I was going to ask if you mentioned like actually doing things instead of just dreaming, but I think that was like one of the last things he said. So.
Yeah.
I think
There's
that the book.
Yeah, Mrs. Tick like outright states at the beginning, it's like if you follow your dreams and
If you trust in yourself and believe in your dreams and follow your star, you will still get beaten by people who spent their time working hard and learning things and weren't so lazy.
Yep. Oh yes, and also no, go ahead, Rick. Go ahead.
I was going to say it also holds in tension the idea that the dreaming part is not completely unimportant.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have imagination and you have to have dreams, but that is not enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, even part of second thoughts is like, yeah, it's okay to have thoughts out here and maybe it'll help you fix your problem, but you also actually do something. You can't
I got a quote
unless you're
about that,
writing a
too.
paper on philosophy. And then I guess you just think about it. I'm so sorry. Ash.
And then you find other people to argue with about the idea.
Oh yeah.
And you
Right.
Yeah, you never resolve it. You just do it all your life. Hopefully someone pays you.
Have you
Yeah.
ever seen are you familiar with epic rap battles?
Yes.
Have you seen the philosophers, the Western versus the Eastern philosophers rap battle?
Oh yes, I saw it a while ago.
Good.
Years. Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll look it up after this.
that's way off topic. I'll send it to you.
Back to dreaming, there's a great quote. The secret is not to dream, she whispered. The secret is to wake up. Waking up is harder. I have woken up and I am real. I know where I come from and where I am going. You cannot fool me anymore or touch me or anything that is mine.
I have a real problem with this. I tend to get lost in my imagination and often retreat to it when life gets tough, right? I don't think I'm the only one, right? But
No, it's a problem I have too.
yeah, I think it's probably a problem most fantasy readers have, honestly. It just makes sense, right? And you just spend your time escaping. You never really deal with your problems, or kind of accept that this is the reality. Learn to be happy with it. But sometimes you just need a kick in the pants from Sir Terry. He will set you straight.
Yeah, as
Or
I
Granny
said,
Weatherwax. Yeah.
I should be doing my taxes and not talking to you about a fantasy book right now.
So maybe we should just end it here. Go out. Finish your chores. We'll never finish this episode.
Anyway,
Yes.
enough about me.
This is just me saying the last theme that I had in mind.
Oh no, say it. Go ahead.
Okay. Accepting the things that are negative about you and making them positive. So,
Okay. Yeah.
the big thing for Tiffany is accepting that she's a selfish person. And she's not saving Wentworth out of the goodness of her heart, really. It's just
Which is
because,
our selfish.
yeah, it's like, no, he's mine. You can't have him. And so she just kind of reframes that as like, okay, I'll just make everyone mine, and then I'll protect them all. And it's like it's a really good thing for people to do. Like, you don't like sometimes you just have personality traits that like can be bad, but can also be good if framed in the right way. Like, a comic book example would be Batman. He has a lot of anger and rage in him because he lost his parents, and he turns that into fighting crime, which is of dubious value, but it is there.
Became a vigilante. That's
Yeah.
what he did.
Became vigilante. Probably don't become a vigilante, people, but channel your rage into
Ash
things
says
like writing.
become a vigilante. That's what Ash just said.
That's true. Yeah, I did say those words. I was actually reading a story earlier today, written by Neil Gaiman after his death.
After his death or after Pratchett's
I
death?
believe Neil Gaiman is still alive.
Neil Gaiman is still alive. Yes, I was referring to Terry Pratchett, and Terry Pratchett. As I said before, he's like a very angry person, but he just turned that towards his writing. One time they had like a botched radio appearance, and Terry was just in the backseat fuming, and Neil Gaiman was trying to make it okay, and Terry just looks at him. He's like, "No, this is the anger that got Good Omens written. Leave it be." I just really appreciate the kind of self-knowledge that the things you can do with self-knowledge like that.
I mean, even Tiffany has this moment where she's like, do I want to turn into Miss Tick? Because Miss Tick is this pedantic, corrective, like, she's kind of a harpy.
Yeah. She corrects everyone's pronunciation.
And everyone's everything. No, it's a whale is a mammal. It's like a cow in the ocean.
Yeah.
And so she starts doing that. But see, here's the thing. She starts doing that with her brother, and her brother makes progress because
Yes,
he
he
needs
does.
to be corrected.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tiffany loves correcting other people too, so
but yeah, she kind of gets off on it. But
Mhm.
you know, and you can push that too far. But
Yes.
there's a place for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering where her parents are. Like, it feels like her parents don't exist in this book, except as very side characters.
her
Yeah.
father had some good father jokes at the beginning.
Oh. Wow.
Her, that's like Tor showing up on the Discord and making a dumb joke. It's like, that's, I love, and this is not against Tor. This is like, he walks into a room, says some stupid dad joke, and walks out. Really being a dad. That's just.
I like it especially here because it's the same joke every time.
I mean, it's funny. I'm just saying it was weird. It was a weird thing. It's like she didn't have any parents.
I'm aching all over.
Oh, jeez.
Did Tiffany say they didn't have to be funny? They were father jokes?
Dad jokes don't have to
Something
be
like that.
funny.
Yeah.
Whenever my kids make a bad joke, I'm like, oh, I'm good to see you guys practicing being a dad.
Mm-hmm.
They're running joke, which is a mom joke. So I guess I don't have a lot of room to talk.
And it's also a great way to see if your woman is still into you, if they keep laughing at your jokes, or man, if you swing that way, or whoever
Whatever.
you're with, your life partner, or your temporary.
This is not
partner.
true. This is not true. This is not a good gauge.
I agree. My wife never laughs at my jokes.
Oh well, maybe I'm just exceptionally funny in the eyes of Lady Ash.
Or maybe she's just very kind.
Yeah, she's just really into me. Maybe a better way of telling is if they say that they hate you and or hit you.
I don't get it.
Okay, so Ash handing out really bad life advice. Everyone, if your spouse says they hate you or they hit you, you should probably find somebody else.
Oh, like if they hit you seriously, but if it's like a playful swat.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I don't have to like nurse black eyes if I make a joke.
Ashaman is advocating for domestic violence.
Only against men, though.
actually a serious issue, guys.
Yes,
There are
it's-
guys who get beat up by their girlfriends or wives or whatever, and it's
Or
People
just
ignore
like-
them and laugh
Yeah.
at them.
just emotionally abused sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a serious issue, and people often ignore the male side.
yeah,
My
exactly.
my favorite domestic abuse joke comes from Futurama.
No. Oh no! This episode is going so off the rails.
Culminates in there's this girl who says that she was abused by her dad, and at the end it culminates to she feels damaged because of all of his years of unspoken verbal abuse.
Glared at me. I was so abused. Any last thoughts, everyone?
There's no witches' school.
The witch's school.
The school is just being alive, which feels very on point for witches.
It does.
It is.
Very much about having a good head on your shoulders. And
I think
seeing
she could
what's
learn a lot from Granny Weatherwax, though.
Can't we all?
Yeah.
Like
sure
how Granny Weatherwax can't read minds. She can read faces. It's a good skill to have.
It feels like she's been looked through 5 miles through.
At the end, Roland gets all the credit, and she gets none of it, and she's just kind of fine with that. I really appreciate that about her. Because a lot of the times, most of the time, I think people do good things not because they want to be seen doing good things. They just wanted to, they just want to help out, keep the world on track. I very, very much doubt that the firefighters were running towards the buildings in 9/11 because they thought that they would get claps on the back or everyone would think they're heroes. They just did it because it was the right thing to do, right? And we need people like that out there.
Probably got some claps in the back, though. And on the cheeks.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I got it. Just took me a second.
Also, Tiffany's really good at making cheese, and I have a friend who's currently struggling to be a good cheesemaker. So I would like Tiffany in my life, so that could be resolved. That is all.
You could give her or him the book to test them with. That would be
The
hilarious.
book's not about cheese making.
It's not, but a 9-year-old girl makes good cheese.
Yeah, she's like, I make good cheese, and that's never been something she struggled at.
She's good at butter, too.
Maybe, if he puts himself in the mindset of Tiffany, really, reads the book and, gets deep into her character.
Her brain.
Yeah, he would just gain the knowledge and the skills required to make good cheese.
I'd like to say that Tiffany's a character whose head I like to spend time in.
Yes.
Much like off the top of my head, I can think of Murderbot would be very close to that as far as a character that I just like to. I want to hang out. I want to hang out with him.
After reading this, I think I'm going to go to what's the next one? I Shall Wear Midnight.
I don't remember off the top of my.
I think I'm going.
I was wondering if you guys would be interested.
I probably would, yeah. Just on the topic of characters I would like to spend time with, most of them, I have quite a few, but they're almost universally bad people.
About you.
Near the top of my list is Hannibal Lecter, specifically Mads Mikkelsen playing Hannibal Lecter.
Okay, so.
But Tehol.
Yes, actually.
So what I'm saying is characters I want to be in the head of. So books that put you in their head. Are you saying you want to be in Hannibal Lecter's head?
That would be excellent.
Oh,
Very interesting.
I like interesting people.
So much. This explains so much.
Yeah, the same way that Tiffany read the stories and was like, "What about the witches?" A lot of the time when I read a story, I'm like, "What about the villain?" Especially in stories where it's a stupid strong hero against a smart villain, because
fair.
In those cases,
that's fair.
Yeah, the villain is just always more interesting and cool there.
Usually, yeah.
So I do have a quote. So one of the things about Terry Pratchett is that we know that he's funny. That's what he's known for. But he can also turn a really great phrase and just be good. And the last paragraph of this book is excellent.
I could read it if you want.
You can please. Here, will you read it?
This is a Little Red Book's quote. Then she made cheese in the dairy, on the farm, and the fields unrolling, and becoming the downlands, sleeping under the hot midsummer sun, or the flocks of sheep, moving slowly, drift over the short turf-like clouds on a green sky, and here and there sheepdogs speed over the grass like shooting stars, forever and ever, world without end.
Sounds like poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not known for that. But he should be, guys.
Yeah.
really
Speaking of that, I don't have it written down or anything, but I really liked the bit where the teachers were introduced, and especially the line, they gave people the keys to the universe when they didn't even know it was locked or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this is funny, but a funny line. But the part where when the teachers get lost, I don't know. They had like this whole thing where they're lost in the woods, all the teachers. And...
Yeah, the geography teachers get fall into bear traps or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. The astronomers. It was pretty funny.
Astronomers point out the stars, and then mathematicians count them.
Yeah.
The geography teachers fall into bear traps. Or step into them.
What does Pratchett have against geography?
Maybe he's just spent too much time around them.
I don't know. I've spent very little time around geographers.
Shall we call it?
That's good. I don't have a lot else to say.
That concludes our episode. You can find us on the Legendarium's Discord. The invite link is on thelegendarium.com. We are also on Twitter at GreenTeamPod and Reddit. Join us in supporting the Legendarium via Patreon. Shout out to Rise and Brave for starting it all. Thank you to our panelists. What's her name and who was it? And especially your host, me, Hurinfan.
See you guys.
Bye.